Alright, we're gonna go teach some dice, otherwise known as craps. And we're gonna start with check drills. So, one of the problems we have with our students is they lose focus. And we need them to be able to manage the checks in the game. So, dice, you're working a lot of checks, right? And checks, by the way, are chips that have value. So, a chip, you'll find like on a roulette table, where they're non-denomination. You get orange or pink or yellow or these types of chips, and then you have to sort of trade them in before you leave the table, so you can go up to the cage and cash out. So a check for dealers, as dealers know, have value. So a check is something you get off a blackjack game. On a dice game, you can take it right to the cage and cash out. So for craps, though, my students get lazy, very lazy. And so what they should be doing is starting the first 15 minutes just doing these check drills. So I'm going to go over there and give them a bunch of crap for not doing check drills, because what they don't understand is when you get on a dice game and it gets busy, you're just pushing checks. And if you can't manage the checks, you can't manage the game. So I want to keep reminding them in a very nice, easygoing, relaxed way.
Please practice.
Check drills, goddamn. Hello, YouTube. Welcome back. David here at CEG with my gang.
You can only see your hands. So
They can only see my hands? Oh, that's disappointing.
It's a good thing.
That's probably better. Yeah.
His face.
That's. And by the way, that annoying noise in the background, that's just Alfonso. Don't worry about it. We just ignore him, okay? All right, here we go. Okay, so first thing is we're gonna go over some check drills. You guys already have a lot of this stuff, but okay. So you can keep another one. All right. So on a craft game, you move a lot of checks around the table, right? It's all about checks, not cards and checks, just checks, right? So what we do is we teach you some basic practices that we want everybody, but everyone gets lazy, to do for the first 15, 20 minutes when you get here, okay? Is literally sit down and work with checks. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to do just run down stacks with each hand, okay? We're going to run down stacks. How much of this can they see? Can they see the whole? Yeah? So we're going to run down, we're going to practice cutting and sizing into checks, okay? So on a crap game, it's more about cutting the checks as opposed to sizing the check. You're still sizing the check, but you move a lot faster. Your fingers get to know the checks a little better in terms of the size and dimensions. On a blackjack game, when you cut down checks, it's very important to slide your finger, you know what I mean, and to prove the stacks. On a dice game, you're cutting, pushing lots of checks in a game. So speed and efficiency is important. So again, we want you to, work down, do fives, then do threes, okay? Then you got to work with your non-dominant hand. My dominant hand is my right hand. I'm right-handed. You have to be a two-handed dealer. You're going to work both sides of the base. You have to be able to run stacks. So what happens is, if you're on this side, okay, this is your inside hand. This is your outside hand when you're on second base. On third base, obviously, your inside hand is your right hand, outside hand is your left hand. You're supposed to run down checks with your inside hand, hand off checks with your outside hand. But because people have a dominant right hand, you'll see them do this. How much of this can they see? Can they see in the bank? First, you'll see them go like this when they grab checks. Like this. So they use the dominant hand, and they pull in. They lean over here, and they pull in. You know what I'm saying? The correct way to do this, obviously, is because you don't want to move your trunk as little as possible. And game protection is to pull the checks out with your inside hand, run them down with your inside hand, and then hand them off with your outside hand. That's the correct way to do it, right? But of course, depending upon what your dominant hand is, people are crossing hands all the time, and it takes away from game protection. Now, some casinos aren't sticklers for that. Some casinos of certain instructors that are here, they'll use their dominant hand to do literally everything, because that's okay, because they trust you. And when you're a dealer for 30 years or 20 years on a dice game, they're not worried about you making mistakes. You know what I mean? But given that that's not the case here, and that's why you're at school, we got to have you start. And the mint in the speed rack. We're dealing mints now. Oh, that's yours? Wow, we have a culprit here right away. Okay. All right, so the key is to pull checks out of the bank with your inside hand, hand off your outside hand. Okay, so when we pull out checks as well, we start with the outside. There are some casinos you pull from the inside on a crap game, okay, because if you have an active boxman effect. When me and Troy here used to work at the Rio, And the Rio used to pull in from the inside, and that was because we had a boxman and they kept track of the checks on the game, right? So pulling from the inside. But most casinos you pull from the outside, and then you run them down. Now singles don't have to be run down, reds don't have to be run down, greens have to be run down and have to be proved. So if someone comes in with 500, you run them down, and it's the same thing on a blackjack. That's 500 groups of 4, right? The one thing that is different on the dice game is 150 that's 150, right? 150 is not, we're not. I don't know what casino you guys are at, but some places 150 is like that, or splash. You don't splash on a dice game. All right. Okay. So track drills. First is stacks, running down stacks, twos, threes, and so forth. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take 2 stacks. Okay. And we're gonna work. Okay, we're gonna run down 1, 2, then we're gonna run down 2 stacks if we can, and then we're gonna push off. Okay, so we're gonna go 2. We're gonna push off into each other, one at a time, and then ultimately the goal is to do them at the same time, working both sides of your brain. You know what I'm saying? And the more you can do that, the easier it is to manage. Literally, you're just rerunning down checks all day. The real key is, and what a lot of people miss is, as well as you might know how to press bets and work with bets on the game and order of operations, it's managing the checks that makes the game easier. The same way if you're on a blackjack table, I know firsthand, with all the dealers that we've trained, if you can't size in the checks, the minute you start seeing big stacks, you're like, oh God, I hope everybody loses, because all you want to do is collect. You know what I'm saying? But someone that can manage the checks really well doesn't care, because they can hit and take care of their bets real easily. You know what I mean? And it sort of reduces the burden on your brain. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so both checks. So this is the goal. This is the goal. All right. So 15 minutes, 20 minutes, everybody should be working stacks. Okay. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do a tower drill. Okay. So the tower drill is a drop cutting exercise where you're literally going to build a tower, dropping 2 checks at a time, and learning how to work the checks down in your hand. That wasn't too bad, actually. I did that fairly good. Usually I make a mess of it, but anyways, okay? So
After 30 years, you don't have to
after 30 years, yeah.
No mess.
No mess, yeah. So then you want to go, bigger amounts, 3s, 2s, you know what I'm saying? And being able to drop cut, it's just a skill to drop cut checks, because when you set up bets on the table, this isn't, but you want to be able to, what they call stamp out the bets, right? The easier it is for you to stamp out bets on the table, the faster and more efficient you are as a dealer, and the easier is your life is just easy. You know what I mean? If someone walks up to a game, and you'll notice, like for every person that walks up to the game, if you're having to manage that person and their bets, because it takes you're sitting here going, like this and like this. Now you have 5 people all yelling at you because you're just busy on this person because your hands suck and you can't get the bets out, right? So the faster you can get these bets on the game, the better. Okay. The next thing is to be able to pick checks. Okay, pick payoffs. Okay. So we have on this sheet there's 7, 14. So you want to be able to come out with 7, right? You want to be able to come out with 14 and be able to pick these off. Okay, 14. And then you're going to want to be able to do this, 21, and so forth. All right. The other strange skill that I've developed over time, and you'll see a lot of dice dealers that have experience in the game, is to be able to, I would call it sort of skipping checks in the game. So you'll notice when I drop checks, they stay together in a stack instead of going all over the place. And I didn't realize that was a skill until someone pointed out that that's a thing. So you'll see a lot of us, we're able to drop checks and keep them together, and it's just a way that we use our fingers, and you know what I'm saying. But it's a good skill to have, because as you're working with checks on the game, you know what I mean. You can let them go and move off your payoff. But anyways, okay. So the last part of this is going down this thing, but also being able to stamp out payoffs, which we still want to prove here. But again, it's all about being able to manage checks. So if you can, and all you guys, part of the assessment is being able to run these things down. Do a stack with your outside hand, your inside hand, work these checks, the tower drill. It'd be good if you can put a tower together. That's why it's nice to have checks at home. As many years I've been dealing, I still have a stack of checks on my desk that I run down like all day long when I have a little nervous energy. Okay. Ready? Good? Everybody's good? All right. We're going to move on to the next part of this.